I think the biggest problem in obstetrics is that we forget that there's a person attached to that uterus. The person is experiencing this in every element of their body, getting to bond with their baby, getting to the support of their mother and their husband, vitally important in the psychological adjustment of having a baby, in the family's birth, not just the person, right?
I also think the really important thing to see in this video too was they already knew that it was that she had a low platelet count, or that she may be at risk for low platelets. I mean, I'm sure they're running numbers. We look at what the platelets are. Every practice and maybe state or country is going to have a parameters for low risk being of whatever your platelet count is, right?
Under 100 or under 75.
Whatever that is. I mean, some people are like, when they get to, 120, we're going to talk about it. Why, why did it start at 180 and go to 140 and then 120? Like, what's happening to whatever. But what I thought was really interesting was that a lot of folks that I talk to, when they have low platelets or anemia or low iron or something along those lines, think I'm risked out of a vaginal birth and will have to have a C-section. And it's the opposite.
That's
right? Like you saw, they knew she had low platelets and they were really focused on a good upright birthing position to reduce tearing, a vaginal birth, because those are the places where you will have the least blood loss. A cesarean for a low platelet count person is almost crazy. A death wish. Like, it's crazy. So, then again, if you have such extreme low platelets that you're going to be risked out of hospital birth, that's one thing. But, finding the provider, the hospital, the home birth midwife, whatever it is, that is going to give the highest vaginal birth rate, right, is going to be, once again, physiologically, the safest option, even when you're high risk in this situation. And I think that that was something that, like, we heard him say, we're going to put a little balloon in, we're going to go to theater. We don't know. Maybe she had a tear that's still bleeding. They need to operate there. Maybe they're going to put the Bakary balloon in. But there wasn't, you have low platelets, so we're going to do a C-section.
Yeah, that's right. No, and I really love the team approach to care, which happens all over the world except for the United States. And you could see that everyone in that room had a zone of genius, right? So the obstetrician is absolutely the highest trained surgeon in the space, but not the highest trained normal birth practitioner. And so the midwife continued to facilitate the birth. And there were nurses there assisting. There was probably an anesthesiologist in the room. There was probably a NICU team. There was probably all kinds of people, but they were not impacting the normalcy that could be gotten. Even with her high risk case, they kept normal where it could be. And she had a normal birth. She had her baby on her chest. She got to have that initial bonding. Her partner was with her and in the room. And those make lifetime differences. I think the biggest problem in obstetrics is that we forget that there's a person attached to that uterus. The person is experiencing this in every element of their body, getting to bond with their baby, getting to the support of their mother and their husband, vitally important in the psychological adjustment of having a baby, in the family's birth, not just the person, right? And then on top of that, like you commented when we were watching it, the doctor, the midwife, speaking directly to her, communicating what needed to be done and asking consent. Wow, we could do a whole segment on informed decision-making and what consent actually looks like. And that was a beautiful example of beforehand, hey, we're going to check in with you. We have some risk factors. We're here if you need us. Then afterwards, okay, now this is needed. This is what we're going to do. Is that okay? Brilliant. I just think it's brilliant. I love seeing these kinds of examples.
Yeah. Same.
And the collaborative care, though, that you brought up is really important too.
So important.
That doesn't happen very often.
And we could accomplish that, but we could accomplish that. And the reason that we don't in the US, I think, is financial and ego.
Oh yeah.
If we could get ego out of the room, and live in our zone of genius, right? Like each of those providers had an area of expertise. The midwife's not going to go to the OR and put the Foley in, right? Or the Bakri. The midwife's going to say, here's how we calm down, breathe, turn over in a better position, push your baby. That's what the midwife's an expert in. Mm-hmm. And if the OB could just say, oh, I'm going to be in the OR responsible for stopping this bleeding. I don't need to fiddle in areas that I'm not an expert in. Like if we could just communicate that, but I don't know how to. Been trying for 25 years. Yeah. Big bridge to cross. I've always thought that if we could have somewhere in the United States, I think this will happen sometime soon, but if we could have a dual trained community-based midwife and obstetrician who was charismatic and outspoken, we could maybe build the bridge between the two professions.
You mean like they're an OB and they went to like a midwifery school first or after or whatever?
Well, I really want a NARM home birth midwife to go become an OB. That's what I want to happen. Or I would love, in my master's thesis, I wrote a dissertation about this interprofessional residency program, postgraduate residency program. Yeah. So I would love to have an OB come do an apprenticeship at a birth center or a home birth practice. Like either way, we just have to build these bridges so that they can speak each other's language. Because right now we're just these diametrically opposed camps that can't even communicate. The languages that we're using, the statistics we're quoting are completely discounted by OB. And then they're doing the same thing. I mean, if one more doctor quotes the Wax et al. Study to me, I just might like drop kick them across the room. It's a bunk study, And yet they're, if we could just learn how to speak the same language, I think we would have a really radically different political landscape. But
somebody's gotta kind of like eat dirt to do it, like even
I know.
And one of the first times I spoke to you, Augustine, I was like, I booked a consultation with Augustine Becca and I'm like, what's the route of midwifery school for me? This is going to be what I want to do. And she's like, why not become a CNM so you can travel? And I was like, cause I'm not going to go through the bullshit. I'm not going to go work in a hospital and have to be temporarily brainwashed in order
but it's not going to change from the inside until someone gets on the inside.
Until someone decides they're going to sacrifice a little bit of themselves and their heart and their soul to like get on the inside. And so either the doctor or the midwife, one of them has to sacrifice part of their soul to be less egotistical, learn more and see the other perspective. And
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
We'll see when that happens.
It's not me. I know it's not me.
I know, right? Like, sorry.
I would love to support whoever's making that journey. And I know a few midwives who are doing their science prereqs right now. Yeah. So
if that's you watching, comment below because we want to talk.
Right. We want to talk to you. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
If you're a doctor, if you're an OBGYN midwife or a midwife OBGYN, we want to hear all about your pathway, your story, and your future.
So do.
Well, what an interesting video. And I know that family feels very, very lucky and grateful for their beautiful baby and making it through that process. How scary.
Yeah.
And I guess I just want to finish by saying that's why obstetrics was invented. That's why we need to find the balance and celebrate that care when it's needed and stop using it when it's not needed.
Yeah, it's inevitably necessary at some point.
For some small percentage of the population. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just been a little flip-flopped,
It's been flip-flopped. Exactly. Population. And now we see that all of this increased obstetric technology has increased the rate of death for mothers.
Right.
Amnesty International is calling the cesarean rate a human rights violation because the cesarean rate has risen threefold in the last 10 years. That is atrocious.
Yeah, I saw an interesting meme or something, which of course, like the internet is so challenging these days because you can just blast any fact up there and say it's all at the end and like people will just believe everything that is up there. But so I think I need to check the numbers, but it was something along the lines of VBAC Facts posted, it is a human rights violation not to have a trial of labor after a cesarean instead of a elective repeat C-section because the risk of death from C-section is so much higher than VBAC. Right.
Yeah.
So
and we can
saying
trust like a
no,
big, yeah, totally. A big
is
shout out for
walking
VBAC
someone
facts.
is walking someone into an 8 times risk of death, right? So it is against the code. It should be against the law.
Although let's be careful what we legislate, remember?
I know, here we go, right? Here we go.
Yeah. No, but for the mamas watching who want to be educated and make the best choice possible, when you look statistically at the risk for VBAC specifically, because we just jumped onto that topic.
Yeah.
The safest route of birth is a successful VBAC. We lose the fewest babies and moms and the fewest morbidities when we have a vaginal birth after cesarean. The second safest route is a planned cesarean. And the third is an unsuccessful trial of labor. And I think that's where the choice point is. The problem is it's not the OB's choice. It's your choice. And so to become educated, read the statistics, advocate for yourself, find a provider who's willing to support you. It's so much work. It's so exhausting. And you're pregnant. I mean, I have so much faith and so much trust in moms, but it's freaking exhausting. And so I just wish that there were more VBAC friendly providers. I wish there was more publication of the evidence so that birthing folks don't have to do quite so much of the legwork to get what is rightfully theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, great topic.
Yeah, that goes for all
levels, all the things. Yeah, all the things. Yeah, like the epidural rate in the United States is something like 86%. The epidural rate in the UK is something like 26%. Mm-hmm. Epidurals are a brilliant solution for giving birth with conscious when you're having a cesarean. Otherwise, you would be put out. They're brilliant for non-productive labors or for excruciatingly painful labors. But most folks, especially with doula support, midwifery support, gas and air, are incredibly effective at having a normal vaginal birth. And I wish that there was less technology and more support of the normal process. But don't we all wish that. So I can get off the soapbox now and we can say thank you and goodbye. And